I'm Brenda from Rock and Load, and tonight I'm in Belfast at the Limelight with Skyler and Dillon from Once Human. Thank you guys, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, it's my pleasure to be
Cold, isn't it? Your hands are freezing.
Yes, yes, it is quite cold.
Yeah, so can you just tell me a little bit about yourselves and what you actually do in the band, Dillon?
Well, I'm the drummer of the band. I've been playing drums for nearly 16 years. It's been quite an adventure and definitely a pleasure to be a part of Logan and Lauren's endeavor.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I'm very honored to be a part of it.
And
Skyler?
I am the guitar player, and I've been playing for about 12 years.
Wow.
And metal is definitely kind of where I got my roots, and this music is pretty close to
Who was your
what I grew up
influences
on.
then, when you started?
Well, Metallica was definitely like the first obsession, as with most metalheads, and Iron Maiden, and then, you know,
I'm a Megadeth fan, sorry.
and then Megadeth came shortly after, and then I was like
Yeah.
Megadeth more. I went through all those typical phases,
Uh-huh.
and then I got into stuff like Lamb of God and Children of Bodom, which I feel is a lot closer to this style. So
I was in Dublin for that last gig for them, Psychosis and
nice.
Lamb of God and Megadeth. It was awesome.
was that like the last one, or
They were in Dublin there a few weeks ago.
before they
Yeah.
took off?
Uh-huh.
That's cool, before they cancel their tour.
So, you're relatively the newbies in the band, so how did that come about? I mean, did you know Logan and Lauren, or did you have to go through an audition process, or what happened?
Both for
Skyler?
me.
Yeah.
One of my good friends that I moved to LA with to kind of pursue a music career with, we both went to the same music school, and he got connected with Logan kind of like through a chance meeting by meeting one of his friends that worked at the school.
Okay.
And his friend recommended him to Logan when he needed a drummer, and he liked him a lot. He was really, really solid and professional, and he ended up recording the drums on the Metal Gear Rising soundtrack, that video game soundtrack that Logan produced.
Okay.
And so he's kind of been in his book for a long time, and so when he started this project, he got him to play drums, and he recorded on the album. And he actually had another gig opportunity shortly after that caused him to leave. But he was also in need of a guitar player, and so as he was departing, he was like, I can help you find a guitar player, mentioned me, and I was living in Nashville at the time, so I actually did a video audition.
Uh-huh. Have you relocated then?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was living in LA at the time, moved to Nashville, and then back to LA.
Uh-huh.
And I guess that's just the way it goes sometimes, the irony of life.
So it's, in this business, it's not what you know, it's who you know?
Very much, yeah.
What was the audition process like? Was it nerve-wracking?
It was very nerve-wracking.
I mean, Logan told me he has pretty high standards, so you must
Yes.
be really, really good.
Yeah, and Ralph told me that. And Ralph had been building him up for the 2 or 3 years he had known him to be a very kind of intense person who's just like incredibly professional, incredibly high standards, like you said.
Yeah.
And just ridiculous workmanship and stuff like that. And so it was kind of intimidating, and I knew I needed to like really nail it, so I spent a long
Just
time
step up
on it.
Or it was an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yes,
really.
exactly. And we were like already, financially having to kind of plan for it because our lease ending and stuff like that. It's like it's now or never kind of deal. So I spent a long time getting it ready, and luckily it worked. I liked it.
Do you think you have your own style? Do you have a unique, or anything that's you that you think's you, or have you taken your influences and you're playing from other guitar players?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always been kind of a songwriter first, and guitar playing has always been kind of more a tool for me to accomplish what I want to play, what I write, and I have a tendency to write things that are too hard to play and work my way up to it.
That's what Steve Vai would say.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And he's an influence of mine in terms of lead playing, but yeah, it's just like, you swallow your influences and spit back out kind of a blend, a unique blend, and you just kind of write what you want to hear. And
so I take it that you and Dillon, then you will be involved in the writing process of any future records?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So what do you think you can bring to the table? What do you have in your mind? I mean, is Once Human your sound, or would you like to bring introduce something new that you have that you know it's in your head?
Well, for me personally, I come from a really mathematical background. I studied music theory for years.
Yeah.
So I'd like to bring a little bit more complexity to the drum parts in one instrument. And I also double at playing guitar too, so if there are some other sorts of riffs that, I think
Does that help you in the writing process then?
For the
You
writing
can actually
process,
change from one instrument to the other?
yeah, most definitely. Most people can either play drums and hear something in their head that could go over it really well, but can't play it.
Yeah.
And other people are like, man, I have this really cool guitar riff, but I don't know what could come next. And if you were a drummer, you could help with that process, and if you're a guitar player for the other scenario.
Because you can already hear it like a Mozart, basically. You can actually hear it in your head then, how it's supposed to sound.
A lot of musicians have that ability, and Logan has this great knack of finding them and bringing them together, which, for me personally, it's...
So, do you think you've fitted into the band then, like hand in a glove?
I'd have to say, yes. Most definitely, it does fit very, very well.
Yes, well, I was saying to Logan earlier that from watching the YouTube videos of you guys, you look awesome. You look like you've been together for at least 10 years. The rapport on stage is like you're flailing about the place, you're just beating away.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
No, it looks awesome. I actually can't wait for the live show tonight. I really can't wait. So, I was going to say the bus crash.
Oh, yeah.
I need to know, how do you feel? Did it shake you up? Are you going to go out there all hammer and tongs now and live your life? That would scare the hell out of me, I knew that much.
I actually had probably the most underwhelming reaction possible.
Really? Come on, tell us all about
it. My
it.
book bag and clothes just fell out of my bunk, and I just woke up and said, what the hell? And I put it back in my bunk and tried to get back to sleep.
No way!
I didn't know we were in a bus crash until 30 minutes later.
Yeah.
And I overheard everyone downstairs talking about it. And I was like, oh crap, we were in a bus crash. I better get back to sleep while I still can.
No way! So he's going to be the nice calm one in the band, is that it? So you're going to be the counselor, is that it?
I would consider myself pretty
Pretty calm?
pretty mellow.
So were you in a band before, Skyler? Were you
I've been in a number of bands before, not like, 2 dozen, like my friend Ralph, who got me in this band. He's been in so many bands, and I tend to kind of pick more carefully because for me, I have to be able to contribute on the songwriting side of things, and that's not always the case. And it's kind of amazing to me that someone in Logan's stature is even considering letting these newbies that he has no really understanding of our songwriting background yet, but he's willing to let us go in and contribute right off the bat. That's really cool. He's really trusting.
Bring a bit of diversity then, a bit of it's good that you're going to have your stamp on some of the music and some of the songs.
I think what I'm gonna bring to the music is definitely going to be more on the groove metal kind of.
I love it. Yes.
And I also like weird melodic stuff like Mastodon, stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm gonna see how much I can convince
sort of squeeze
them,
it in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. I mean, there's already a bit of orchestral dreaminess about the band. That's very appealing to me. That's very appealing.
I think it'd be cool if the second record was just completely different.
Yeah. Because it's quite exhausting for someone like me, your audience, to listen to a band that's just beating the hell out of your brain from one end of it to the other.
Yeah.
You do need that little up and down, a little break. You need to come down to fill the up.
Absolutely.
So what interest do you see you bring into it? You've done everything. You've done a little bit of jazz and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, Dillon. So what do you think you would like to bring to this band? What do you see happening for you?
Well, the reason why I did a lot of studying of different sorts of music, the Latin, jazz, taiko, I play guitar, I play marimba, is because I enjoy puzzles.
Right.
I very much enjoy puzzles. It's all another challenge, another mountain to climb, you know what I mean? But mountain in my head.
Yes.
So to apply, those different kinds of skills into a certain way is just another challenge. If I'm able to combine a bunch of different kinds of genres together to create something that no one's ever heard before, that would be kind of ideal. Yeah. Incredibly challenging, because that's why genres are separate, but an endeavor nonetheless. What I could bring to the table with that kind of mindset is a kind of a chameleon-like aspect. Whatever riff they throw at me, no matter what kind of feel it is, I could definitely bring a complementary drum part, whether it be with it or against it, or something that wouldn't go with it at all, or something I could just be funny one day with, and they could say that is not going on the record at all. But at least it brings some laughs to the table.
But you never know, because when bands develop, they change.
Yeah.
They go through changes, and one day it might not be the whole thing that you developed, but there might be something in it that they can take out of it.
Mike Heller from Fear Factory, when he writes with his band Malignancy, he says his guitar player writes stuff like riffs you would never ever hear, ever. So it's kind of challenging for him to find a nice pocket to sit in when it comes to complementing the riff. So instead of trying to find a pocket, he'll just play something that doesn't exactly complement it right, but that's Malignancy's sound, and dear God, it's amazing. Him and his applications of music theory and rhythmic technique.
Did you change the band any?
When it comes to adding in different musicians and getting different tastes and bringing different ingredients to the plate, it will change the final product a little bit. But that's what's really neat about having someone like Logan to work with. He's got that eye and that ear. Yes,
hasn't he?
exactly.
Yes.
He's experienced. He's obviously been at every different piece of the puzzle itself as an engineer and as a writer and all of that. So if we bring something to the table that doesn't quite work, he'll know that and be like, well, let's try that again. Let's see if we can make that work. Let's adjust this a little bit, like it was said.
Like a Rubik's Cube or something.
Exactly.
You just work at it until it does fit
Exactly.
then.
And who better to sculpt that than Logan?
Logan,
it's going to be a very interesting thing, all of us writing together for sure, because for me, I'm kind of like Dillon in that I like to think about stuff and solve puzzles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the reason I play guitar and write is to kind of get out of that, to think less, and to kind of just go into a meditative mode. And that's usually how I write stuff. But then when it comes to structuring the song and making decisions, that goes back into thinking mode, and I tend to start to overthink that. And what's great about working with Logan is that he's so objective, and like he knows what sells, he knows what works and what doesn't work. Especially when you sit there and stare at Pro Tools for 12 hours in a row, you really lose objectivity, and you don't know what is good anymore because you've listened to it too much.
It's like smell too many perfumes; they all smell the same.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to him being able to stop me before I get too far down that road, and just being able to grab the good ideas and put them together.
You're very lucky. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I'm very privileged to actually be able to speak to you guys now. I mean, you are going to take off huge. You are already there, but I'm very privileged because I see this band going very far.
I very appreciate you saying that.
Everybody's so enthusiastic, and so it's great to talk to somebody on the other side. I mean, I'm your audience, and it's amazing for me to stand there and watch us all go at it, and I'm like, what is in your heads? How do you feel on the stage? How does it feel for you to be doing this tour so far?
Yeah.
I mean, supporting Fear Factory veterans. Have you learned anything from Fear Factory?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned...
Do you look at them and go, I could try that?
Yeah, I mean,
you guys know that we're going in 30 minutes, right?
Yes.
And that's Damien.
Damien. Hi, Damien.
But I just see from them that it's all about taking it one day at a time. They don't get their heads too wrapped up around any one aspect of touring. They just kind of they kind of just go with the flow, and I've noticed that you can't think too far ahead.
You think you're just coming at this slightly differently because you're young and you've got it all in front of you.
Yeah. And it just it was kind of like fake it till you make it at first, and then I realized that a lot of things that I thought would be more challenging are actually not that hard. Like getting up in front of bigger and bigger crowds, it's the same thing, and I never put on a different show just because the crowd
Do you
was
get
bigger.
nerves before you go on? Either of you?
There are certain days where I notice there are a few butterflies
Really?
in my tummy. It's kind
How
of
do you
funny.
combat the nerves? You look like you don't get nerves.
Well, I do, and I would be mad if I didn't, because then I wouldn't have as much adrenaline.
I was just going to say, that's what sort of drives you.
Yeah. But funnily enough, there's been a few shows on this tour where I was sitting around waiting because we got set up a few minutes early, and I'd start getting bored. I'm like, come on, let's just start. And then that show happens to be the one where I go the craziest and have the most fun.
Really?
Yeah, it's always
Wow.
spontaneous. I never
just
really
different?
know. I never really know.
Do you think it's the crowd? Do you think the crowd affects how you play?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about feeding each other. if the crowd's going mad, the band gets better.
Yeah.
If you're just standing there like that, I don't know how any band plays the crowd that stands
That
with
really-
their hands, with their knees.
You definitely
Yeah,
feel the energy.
totally. Yeah, I think that might actually be it. I might, regardless of whether I'm bored or nervous beforehand, it almost has no bearing on the show because once we get on stage, it's like a clean slate. The energy of the crowd is what
Yeah,
dictates
you're
where it
focused
goes.
on that.
Exactly.
Dylan, who were your drum influences? Who would you
Goodness.
consider to be the class drummer that you would like to aspire to be? Or even if you think you're better?
Well, I couldn't say that. There are a few drummers that I definitely look up to. For a while, I suppose you could say I'm not as deep into music as some of the other musicians are. For example, Skyler
Yes.
is constantly showing me new music that I've
That
pretty
would
much
be
never
me.
heard of. Same thing with Mike Heller from Fear Factory, the drummer for Fear Factory. They've all heard of so many different music, so many different bands that I've never heard of, and it's really a great experience to be sitting on a bus for hours and hours and hours a day with these guys and learning and listening to new things.
It's like a sponge sucking it all
Exactly.
in. Yeah.
So one of the first drummers that actually blew my mind was George Kalias from Nile.
Right.
I've never heard anyone play faster than he did when I first heard him.
Yes.
So, figuring out exactly what he does and how his techniques are was something that I just needed to figure out. So
Have you ever met him?
yes, actually I have. I met him at NAMM one year. Really great guy, and it's kind of shocking how similar we look.
Really?
Just
Wow, I
amazing.
don't know, so I'm going to have to go and look that
Yeah,
up now.
there's a picture on our Facebook.
I will do, I'll go and look.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I studied him for a second. I watched. I purchased his DVD. I spoke to him personally. Then I discovered a band called Necrophagist, and they the person that introduced them to me, he defined them as a math metal band. And as soon as I heard that, I was immediately intrigued. Like, wait a minute, there's math, and they're playing metal? This sounds like it would be right up my alley. So when I first got into Necrophagist, it was the most mind-blowing thing ever. It was a very elegant application of music theory, musically, melodically,
Yes.
and then to actually put together the different time signatures, it requires a drummer that really knows what's going on, knows how to count, knows how to add, and do all the different kinds of mathematical things, and even divide and subdivide. It was an incredible band to discover, and it definitely did a lot to shape the way that I play and that I think. But being someone that studies music theory, I also definitely looked into musicians like Bach and Beethoven and the different things that they did in the classical era. And their applications in music theory just trumps everything I've heard. It blows my mind how smooth those kind of guys can. They made their key changes. Their chord progressions are literally perfect. There are no errors at all. Nothing that anyone could possibly would
It's
have
kind
wanted
of
to
like
do
Miles, isn't it? Miles is either right or wrong.
Exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's challenging. Music is an ultimate challenge that constantly evolves over time, and I love it.
You've
I
no
absolutely
idea
love
how insanely jealous I am of guys who can play drums or play bass. I love bass, I'm sorry. Bass and drums. and guitar. I'm insanely jealous. I can just about do a Nirvana riff and no more on an acoustic. I'm a violinist, but I play violin. But
I
I
wanna play
would
the cello.
love to play guitar, and I just, no, I can't tune. 6 strings is too many. It's just, no.
My next instrument is a cello. I'm
A
trying to figure
cello,
out the
there
cello.
you go. Well, that's why I used to play my violin half the time on it. Right, guys, you have to go and prepare for your show, which I'm really looking forward to. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah.
Dillon and Skyler, you've been absolute gentlemen.
Yes,
Thank
my
you.
pleasure.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much.
Thank you.